December 1998, the end of the year. No real memories. Still working at frame art. That's going to be going on for a number of years. Eventually, I'll remember some things. But I read 13 books in December of 1998, and only 5 of them are not based on intellectual properties, or not media tie-ins, whatever term you want to use. But we're going to jump right in and talk about the 13 books that I read in December of 1998. And the first one was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Watcher's Guide by Christopher Golden and Nancy Holder. And this doesn't say volume 1, but it is volume 1. And it's an episode guide. You got trivia, you got pictures, there's black and white, there's color photos, there's plot synopses, and just all sorts of cool stuff. And I'm going to take a quick look that I should have done before. Yes, this has the first 2 seasons. It's got a character guide, a monster guide, behind the scenes stuff, and an episode guide for the first 2 seasons. So I'm recording this on July 1st, and my sister died on January 2nd of this year. And she was a huge Buffy fan, and this, along with the other 2 volumes and a couple other Buffy books, I got from her after she passed. But I used to have it back in 1998, and that's when I read it. And I'm glad to have it. I really like the show, and I like these kinds of books. Second book from December 1998, Skylar in Yankeeland by Gregory MacDonald. I've talked about this before. It's the second Skylar book. Skylar, a good old Southern boy, but very gorgeous. The ladies love him. And in this book, he goes up north to visit his family in Yankeeland, and some jewels. He's staying with his rich family. Some jewels are stolen. He's a suspect. And then a 13-year-old girl ends up murdered. And he now has to... So he was just goofing around when everybody was accusing him of stealing jewels. But now that there's a murder, he has to kind of buckle down and figure out what's going on, clear his name. Very fun. I liked the first one a little bit better, but still a very fun book. I read it more than once, so it must have been pretty good. Book number 3, Trouble in Paradise by Robert B. Parker. This is the second book in the Jesse Stone series. Jesse Stone, character played by Tom Selleck in 9 or 10 made-for-TV movies. But in this book, so Jesse Stone was a cop with an alcohol problem and becomes sheriff in this small New England town of Paradise. And in this book, bunch of criminals are gonna heist. They're gonna heist. There's an island off of the coast, and it's like the super rich, ritzy place. And these criminals plan on going there, blowing up the bridge, and then just robbing the place, just going nuts. And I don't remember how they're planning on getting off the island. So, of course, Jesse Stone, who's got his own troubles, has to deal with this. I like the Jesse Stone books, not as much as the Parker books. But, the Jesse Stone books are fun. So, Trouble in Paradise, Robert B. Parker. That's 2 out of 5. Skylar in Yankeeland, Trouble in Paradise. 2 out of 5, not based on other things. But, next up, Spider-Man Venom's Wrath by Keith R. A. DiCandido and Jose R. Nieto. And this is Eddie Brock's ex-wife is kidnapped along with Robbie Robertson, who is second in command to J. Jonah Jameson at the Daily Planet, and a police captain is kidnapped as well. So these three people are kidnapped. So Spider-Man has to kind of team up with the police to try and find these people, and also deal with Venom, who I don't even know if he's an anti-hero at this point. He's just going to cut a bloody path through New York trying to find his ex-wife. Fun Spider-Man stuff with Venom. Then we have Dark Destiny, Proprietors of Fate, edited by Edward E. Kramer. This is another World of Darkness, White Wolf Publishing World of Darkness anthology. So it's got stories that take place with Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf Armageddon, I think is what that one was called, and Mage, and all the different, basically they were all role-playing games and card games. And then this is fiction based on that stuff. So the vampire clans and the werewolf tribes, and it's a bunch of different authors writing a bunch of different stories. This is when if you've been paying attention to these videos, this is when I was really getting deep into the World of Darkness stuff, and you're going to see more of it. All right, next. The third book that's not based on a previous property, The Other World by John Wynne. This is a short story collection, a very dark short story collection. Didn't remember what the hell this was. I thought maybe this was another World of Darkness book. I had to look it up, and reading the descriptions, there are multiple stories that deal with rape, and the rapists, and stalking, and obsessions, and murder. Seems like it's a very, very dark book. I did like one of the reviews where someone said their friend bought it for $2 at a library book sale, and they said it was the best, worst $2 they ever spent. They gave the book 1 star, maybe 2. But, I mean, if you want to read really dark, depressing short stories, maybe check out The Other World by John Wynne. All right, now we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Angel Chronicles, Volume 2 by Richie Tankersley. This is novelization of 3 episodes of Buffy, one of which is Halloween, which is a fun episode because everybody becomes their costumes. So whatever they're dressed as, they become that. And because it's all a plot, this evil sorcerer guy, who Giles used to know, opened a costume shop, put this curse on all the costumes so that he could, once the Slayer and basically everybody is incapacitated, he could do whatever he wants to do in Sunnydale. It's a fun episode. I don't remember exactly how Angel plays into it. The one thing I remember most is that Xander dresses up as an army guy excuse me, and becomes like super army guy. So the other 2 episodes in this book are What's My Line, parts 1 and 2. And this, I believe, is this where they introduce Oz, the Seth Green character? I know that he and Willow become closer, but it's, what do you call it? Like career day or whatever at the high school. And, you know, Buffy thinks she's just going to not have any type of career or any type of future because she's the Slayer. But there's a lot of character interaction between Buffy and Angel. Spike hires these, I think it's Spike who hires these bounty hunters to kill Buffy. And spoilers, if you haven't seen this decades old show, there's a second Slayer. There's only supposed to be one in every generation. But they reveal that at the end of season 1, when Buffy was dead temporarily, it triggered the next Slayer. Then Buffy was revived, but there was still a second Slayer. So we meet Kendra, and then Spike and Drusilla need Angel for a thing. Pretty good episodes. Again, they're fun, interesting episodes. I don't remember if this is the book. I don't want to accuse this author. There's a book that's a novelization of an episode of Buffy where I don't remember if I've mentioned this before, but the author actually writes the stage direction into the story. So there's Spike is interacting with somebody, and then it literally says, like, Spike walks off exiting stage left or something like that. It was weird. And I don't remember if it was this one. But either way, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Angel Chronicles Volume 2. If you're a big fan of the show and you like reading novelizations of things, not a bad book. We move on to Prince of the City by Keith Herber. Regular viewers of this series may recall that the last book I read in November of 1998 was Dark Prince by Keith Herber. Well, Prince of the City is a prequel / sequel / companion. It's the story of one of the vampires in San Francisco. This is a World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade story. But it's sort of the rags to riches to rags story of this one particular vampire. And it scenes that are sort of touched upon in Dark Prince are fleshed out in this book. Because I think that the main character of this book was just a side character in Dark Prince, if that makes sense. But now that we're seeing this guy's story, we're seeing those little scenes from his point of view, bigger scope, more detail. But another World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade book. Excuse me. All right, then we have, yes, the 4th book out of 5, out of 13. The 4th one that's not based on existing properties, and this is Hegira by Greg Bear. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's Hegira by Greg Bear, who's a hard sci-fi writer. And going over this list, doing this entire series, I'm surprised by how much I've read from him. It's not a lot, but it's more than I thought I had. But in this book, you have this world where there's hundreds of different tribes existing in different cities. The world is called Hegira? I'm not sure, but all these different tribes, different cities, and all of their history, all of their knowledge, everything is on these obelisks. And the main character is seeking knowledge. So he has some companions, and they're going to these obelisks to gain this knowledge, I guess. I don't know. Not a huge Greg Bear fan. I don't know why I read so much of his stuff. All right. Then we're getting closer to the end. We have The Avengers and the Thunderbolts by Pierce Askren. Askegren. I don't know how you say his name. I love this cover. And so the Thunderbolts, spoilers, again for something decades old. The Thunderbolts were a brand new group of superheroes that showed up when the Avengers and the Fantastic Four were completely gone, and we needed new heroes. And at the end of the very first issue, they'd appeared in an issue of the Hulk before their own first issue. They may have appeared somewhere else before their own first issue. So sort of showing these heroes. And then at the very end of the first issue, it's revealed that they're actually the masters of evil, disguising themselves as heroes to get access to the Avengers mansion and the Baxter building of the Fantastic Four. Baron Zemo is the leader. But very quickly in this series, and I really love the Thunderbolts series, some of the villains like being seen as heroes and want to actually be heroes. They think it's better than being villains. And they actually recruit at least one real hero. A young kid, Baron Zemo thinks they can manipulate her. Eventually, Hawkeye becomes their leader. It's really, really good book. But anyway, so in this story, we're at the point where the Thunderbolts have been revealed to the world as being the masters of evil. But some of them are still trying to be heroes. But Baron Zemo has teamed up with Baron Strucker and Hydra, to take over the world, do the crazy Nazi fascist stuff. And so the Avengers have to team up with the Thunderbolts to stop Zemo and Strucker. And I'm a huge fan of the Thunderbolts, fan of the Avengers in general. So I was really excited to read this. And I dig it. It's definitely one that will be read multiple times. And then I have to turn the page. Next up, we have Angels on Fire by Nancy A. Collins, creator of the great Sonya Blue vampire series. I started reading her stuff. I've mentioned this before because she was writing Swamp Thing. I can see right over there, I have the giant omnibus of Nancy Collins' run on Swamp Thing. With Angels on Fire, we have this 30-something character named Lucy Bender, lives in Manhattan, and one day an angel just crashes on her roof. And then she gets pulled into just craziness. Mundane, regular human craziness, and angel craziness. And she's going to have a relationship with this angel? I don't recall. But good Nancy Collins stuff. Not as enjoyable to me as the Sonya Blue stuff, but still enjoyable. The penultimate book. Oh, and Angels on Fire would be the last book that's not connected to another property or anything. So the penultimate book is Book of the Kindred by... Here we go. Let's see. A lot of names that are difficult for me to pronounce. Mark Rain Hagen, Graham Davis, Tom Dowd, Don Basingthwaite, Lawrence Watt Evans, Matt Forbeck, and Jim Moore. Is that James A. Moore? Whatever I wrote this down from, it obviously said Jim Moore. But I know James A. Moore has written stuff in the World of Darkness. And Book of the Kindred is, apparently, I had to look this up, it says the source book for Vampire the Masquerade, which would mean it's the nonfiction guide to all of the vampire clans, the setting of the world, how things work in the world. And it would be nonfiction. Now, it may have had, sometimes these books will have like a short story here and there just to give you a flavor since these are role-playing games. But I believe this is a nonfiction book, basically. I mean, it's fiction, but it's not stories. Does that make sense? Again, there are 13 vampire clans. I don't remember exactly how many, but this is what will tell you the specifics of each clan, how they interact with the other clans, which clans run which cities, all that sort of stuff. So, Book of the Kindred. And then finally, the last book that I read in December of 1998. So the last book I read in 1998 was Generation X Crossroads by J. Stephen York. Generation X was an X-Men book, and it was a group of mutants being trained by Banshee and the White Queen. What's her name? Emma Frost. And the group included Husk, Chamber, Jubilee, Skin. There's some others. And in this book, they are on a road trip across the country, and they have to deal with some terrorists and an anti-mutant radio personality. Think like Rush Limbaugh if he hated mutants. So it's fun. As always, regular viewers will know I'm not the biggest of X-Men fans, and Generation X was maybe a sort of companion title to New Mutants, because it was a new generation of younger characters. I preferred New Mutants, but I do like Jubilee. Skin has an interesting power. Husk. Skin's power is kind of gross. Husk had an interesting power. Chamber had a very interesting look. Jubilee was always fun, especially when she turns into a vampire. But Generation X Crossroads, just a fun little comic book novel. So there you have it, all of the books that I read in December of 1998, closing out the year. And as usual, I did not think of a question. So let's see. What media tie-in books have you read? Have you ever read any media tie-in books? And if so, what are they? What are your favorites? Not novelizations. We're going to leave those off the table. Because I think that's something slightly different. But basically original works based on existing properties. Very much like the Buffy, in this case, the Buffy book wouldn't count because that's essentially a novelization of 3 episodes of the TV show. But the World of Darkness stuff based on role-playing games. Obviously, Spider-Man, Avengers and Thunderbolts, the Generation X, all stuff, original novels based on comic books. And there are, not this particular month, but there are obviously tons of Buffy novels, original novels, but based on the TV show. So have you read anything like this? If so, what do you think? What are your favorites? Are there any that you know of coming out that you're looking forward to? Obviously, I like this kind of thing. If it's a property I like, then I want more of it. And I just glanced over here at one of my bookshelves and realized I might be getting a lot of comments about the Alien and or Predator franchises, because there's a lot of that stuff out there, and I think a lot of people in my sort of circles read that kind of stuff. But yes, obviously, I like that. Star Wars might be another one that comes up for some people, but just looking over here, there's one whole shelf that's DC, original DC stuff. There are some novelizations of some of the comics as well, but it's 95% original stuff. I have some Star Wars stuff. I've got Aliens and Predator stuff. I can't see it because there's book carts in front of it, but I've got all the new Firefly novels that came out. Over here is just the tons and tons of Marvel novels. Now, some of them are novelizations of stories told in the comics, but the majority of them are original material. And of course, Aconite with their all the different novels based on different board games, as well as their Arkham Horror, which is a board game and a card game, but also Lovecraft. So yeah, it's a thing I dig. What I'm looking forward to most, and I didn't even think about the fact that I actually had an answer to this part when I threw it in there, but I can tell you absolutely what I'm looking forward to most right now, off the top of my head, is the Marvel Zombies novel that is coming out later this year. It's from Aconite, and I don't know if it's going to fit into their series of Marvel novels or their series of Zombicide novels, because there's a Marvel Zombies Zombicide game. But I am very excited for this. I really, really have been champing at the bit since I heard about it. And it doesn't come out until September, October. Maybe later than that. I think maybe October. But I've seen the cover. I think the cover looks great. I know it's got characters that I love in it. I like the author that wrote it, Marshila Rockwell. Hopefully that's how you say her name. So yes, off the top of my head, that's what I'm looking forward to the most. I'm also looking forward to this is a novelization, so I'm not going to... I'll mention it just to kind of promote it, but it doesn't count. Plus, I don't remember the name of it. Moonforce? I don't know. It's the... V. Castro is doing a novelization of an upcoming Zack Snyder movie. It's actually, from what I read, it's a pair of movies, and it's basically just a science fiction version of The Seven Samurai. But, and I'm not a fan of Zack Snyder. He's got like one movie that I like. One movie I tolerate, maybe one and a half that I tolerate. Can't stand the rest of them. But I love V. Castro. Everything I've read from her, I've really enjoyed. So I am going to pick that up because I like her writing and I want to support authors that I like. But as I said, that doesn't count. So anyway, what about you? If you can even remember at this point what I asked, let me know in the comments below. And if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media. At the moment, I am still on Twitter, and it's at Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. That's all I've got for you this week. So until next week, read more books.